And now on Chatterbox UK, we're just lucky enough to welcome Leapy Lee. Lee, welcome. How are you, sir?
Hello, Lee.
Well, I'm very well, thank you, Nick. Yes, I'm fine. How are you?
We're good, thank you, thank you. And yeah, it's an interesting story. And I see that you were born just along the coast from us. We're based in St Leonard's, and you were born along the Sunshine Coast. So yeah,
Well,
so
Bloomerland.
the Sunshine Coast as well. Lee, how did you get into singing? Did you like singing as a child, or how did you actually get into it to start with?
Well, I used to like Saturday morning pictures in those days, you know, and I used to love the cowboys sitting on their horses with guitars, Gene Autry and people. I actually had the pleasure of meeting Gene Autry many, many, many years later when I did the Grand Ole Opry. But them, they were my heroes, and I liked the look of the guitar. So I started to save up for my paper round Eastbourne. My paper round, and there was a guitar in the window, one of the little music shops. It was a fiver, and I was trying to save up for my 7 and 6 a week, and of course it was taking forever. And so, but there was a ukulele next to it, and it was only 30 bob. So I bought the ukulele, and so I started on a ukulele, and then I started getting a couple of friends round. My uncle knew how to make a T-chest bass. So he made a T-chest bass for us, you know. We were actually pre-Skiffle, before Skiffle really started. About a year or so before Skiffle really kicked off. So we were well ready.
Wow.
By the time it did. And that's really how it started, you know.
Brilliant. So what was the next move? Did you sort of get to play round pubs, bars, or halls, or whatever?
Well, we played in all sorts of places. We played in little hotels and things in Eastbourne. You know, we were very popular at the Espresso Lounge and that because there wasn't anything like it. You know, it was all new. It was just, like, you know, we were packed. I mean, people used to come for miles to see it because it was just new, you know, it was a novelty. I'm not sure if music was that good, but it was a novelty.
Sure.
But then I got offered to front a group in 1958. I got offered a front a group as somebody came down to see us at the London Palladium.
Wow.
So I actually started off at the London Palladium. Although we did go and do the Mount Edgware Road with the Urchins, as my group was called.
Urchins, wonderful.
Prior to that, we did State Your Case in Birmingham. We did Metropolitan Theatre, which is now knocked down, unfortunately. So we'd done a bit with the band, you know, but then they offered me this job, and I very reluctantly left the band because the offer was too good to... They made me an offer I couldn't refuse. That's what they did.
Sure.
So I fronted a band which was made up of session musicians because there still weren't rock and roll bands even then in '58. Not really. In America they were, but not really in the UK. They were just beginning down the Two Eyes and everything. And then so I found it in a group which went on to become Hoots Mon the Moose Loose. What group was that? Anyway,
that was Rockingham's Lord Rockingham's 11.
Lord Rockingham's 11. That's right.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. And their sax player and the other went on to form that. But anyway, I sort of went. Unfortunately, I slightly missed the boat because being on the Palladium in '58 and '59, I was with the same show, Largest Live with Harry Seacombe and Eric Sykes, Happy Jake, I think. I sort of started at the top and worked down. And when it sort of finished, all the boys went back to their various sessions and their various jazz. They're all jazz men, you know. And Rex went off to form Lord Rockingham's 11. And I sort of finished up sort of wallowing a little bit, but I always actually wanted to be an actor. I didn't want to be just the music business just came along, you know. It was acting I wanted to do. So I went into acting, and I got 3 or 4 West End shows, but they all folded, so I was in trouble. So I started doing other things to earn money for some time, including a shop in the Portobello Road and a few stores around, you know, that sort of thing.
Okay.
And up in the East End called the Bongo Club, where I used to book the Tremolos and Jimmy Page and Led Zeppelin, all before they started, 30 bob a week, 30 bob a night.
Brilliant.
And just, you know, life.
Do you, I mean, you were sort of, you know, I think you played him, you don't sort of get much bigger than that, but do you perhaps feel if you weren't, because Eastbourne a little bit off the beaten track, if you like, as I look upon Hastings as being a bit like that, but do you think if you were it's difficult to say if you were in Liverpool, but you say you were pre-skiffle, so that's pre-quarrymen sort of thing. Do you think if you were in one of the big cities when you first started, you might have led the way with like some skiffle movements, or was it just set the way it became?
Well, I could have led the way actually, because when I went up to London in 1958, it was only just kicking off down the Two Eyes and everything. I actually, in my gigs, I was with Bruce and Hank from the Shadows, you know, and I knew Cliff there as well. But anyway, and they were all going to the Two Eyes, and Lanny Parnes, I don't know if you know, Larry Parnes was the big rock and roll manager at the time. Yeah. He was signing people up right, left and centre, Billy Fury and Marky Wild and Wildcats and what. But I was on the Palladium, you see. So I was already at the top, wasn't I? What I should have done was gone down the Two Eyes. That's really it, because that was where it was all really beginning, you know. And I just jumped the gun slightly. And, of course, I was out of sight, out of mind for those 2 years, which were very, very important years, you know, for people, you know, just starting out. You know, well, Cliff and everybody here, they were all going down there. Hank and Bruce were all going down there, everybody. But not me.
Well,
but that's not the Palladium, you know.
Well, at the time, I could see why you thought that was the gig to be at, because, you know, name-wise, that is the top of the, you know.
Well, it was, absolutely, you know, and unfortunately, the producer was a real old-time theatre man, and the director absolutely hated the new rock and roll. They did music through the ages, and they started off with minuets and all that sort of. They went right the way through to rock and roll. And we went from about 5 numbers, and he cut us right down to 1. Oh. But in the end, we were only actually doing one song, and that was A Whole Lot of Women by Rainwater.
Do you?
We only did the one song in the end, and we used to bring the house down, I might add.
Wonderful.
But of course, it wasn't much of a showcase for me, just singing one song, you know. And so I didn't actually get discovered from there.
No, well, I get that. I mean, was there any early offers of record deals and things like that, or was it literally because you?
Yes, I did. I sent a demo to Tony Hatch.
Oh yes,
you know,
yeah, I remember.
You know, and Tony listened to it and he loved it, and I went and recorded with Tony Hatch, and it was released.
Brilliant.
It was a record called It's All Happening, which I'd written in Eastbourne, and we released it, and it did fairly well. It didn't hit the chart, but I think probably a little bit ahead of its time in a way. But you know, I still dig it out sometimes and play it on my radio program, because I've got a radio show as well. You know, so I'm delighted to play, and I have a good time. And but it's all happening. There was an odd thing about that, because many years later, we had a phone call come through from America, and they were making a film called The Happening, and they were inquiring as to whether my It's All Happening was available. Was
it? What took them so long? Yeah.
Anyway, of course I said yes, naturally, but in the end, they put Diana Ross and the Supremes, The Happening. That one, they used that instead, which was far better anyway.
Okay.
So I missed out there. But yes, I recorded then, and I can't remember doing anything else with Tony Hatch, actually. He was very busy at the time.
He was, wasn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, I wrote Coronation Street, didn't he, the theme and everything, you know. It was his wife. What was his wife?
Jackie Trent.
Jackie Trent, absolutely right, yeah. Jackie Trent, yeah. And, so I had to earn money because I had a family then. See, I had my first baby when I was quite young. I met Mary in Eastbourne, my wife, when I was 15. So, and I went up to London when I was 18. So, and I knew that I had to go to London because I used to buy the stage and everything in the stage, all the auditions, because I wanted to be an actor. All the auditions were in London. I tried to go anyway, so when I had the excuse to go to be at the Palladium, that was a double bubble, you know, after I went. But I had good times, bad times, you know. I did mock auctions, as I say, I had the club in the East End, you know, I booked the boys and everything. Screaming Lord Such, Wee Willie, all of them. All of them.
you mentioned, about maybe being ahead of your time and things like that, and we talked about the Palladium a bit, and of course, as I said, that is the top of the pile, isn't it? The Palladium. But of course, looking back, hindsight for any of us is a great thing,
Well,
isn't it? That's it could have so easily been the other way, couldn't it? So.
Oh, absolutely. Well, it normally is the other way.
Well, yes. Anyway, so it's all happening in 1962. You told us a great story about that. I see you brought another song out, "King of the Whole Wide World."
Yeah, I did that with Ray Davis.
Okay.
Yeah,
well, he wrote it, or you sang it with him?
Well, I was with the same management as Ray Davis, and Robert Wace and Brent Collins were his managers, and I was with the same management. And they asked Ray to write me a song. Mm-hmm. And he wrote me, "The Pac-Man taking all my dough," and he wrote me that. And I said, "Wow, yeah, that's the one for me," hearing the demo, But they decided that the demo had turned out so well that the Kings were going to release it anyway.
Oh, yes, well.
And that with a couple of others too, with Randy and anyway. And then he wrote "King of the Whole Wide World," and I did it with him, and we had Goldie and the Gingerbread singing, Madeline Bell singing background, the Three Bells. A terrific session.
Sounds it. Sounds it.
And when you listen to it, you can hear the Kings. You can hear it's a Kings song. Unfortunately, it wasn't.
Sure.
But I do hold the very, I'm quite proud privilege of being the only artist the Kings have ever recorded with. Because groups like you can still do record with other singers and things like that. But the Kings never did. And I was the only one they ever recorded with. So that's nice.
That's a very proud fact, isn't it? What?
It's worth a few record, by the way. It's worth 150 quid if you got one.
Wow. Unfortunately. Unfortunately, I haven't got any. Around what time did you decide on the name Leapy Lee? Was that at the beginning in '62, or was it when you were,
Yeah, I got that. I unfortunately got lumbered with that name, which I've had to live with all my life.
I think it's a great name.
Yeah. See, you've got to ask.
Never get with a name like that, you never get taken seriously, you see. So when I tried to do serious things, and they said, "Who are you doing it with?" It was Leapy Lee. They went, "Oh, really? Oh, God."
But I tell you, I didn't know if it was a sort of a nickname when you were growing up around Eastbourne or something. But I tell you something, it's memorable. It's very memorable.
It's catchy and it goes well with the song.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about your songs in a bit, but Sue, you've got a question for Lee about his name, haven't you?
Yeah. How did you come up with Leapy Lee?
Well, when things died down a bit with the after the Palladium and everything, and I needed to get money because I already had one child, another one on the way. I had a family. A lot of those lads were young, and they didn't have any, they had nothing, no responsibilities or anything, But I did. I had a family, so I had to do other things. So I had a bingo hall which just started that bingo at the time. In Shepherd's Bush, and I had another one in the East End in Canning Town, and I had the club there, and I had a store in the Portobello Road and the shop in the Portobello Road, little shop, and I was leaping from one job to the next, and that's literally how it happened. Leaping again, that stuck, and I've been lumbered with it since.
Brilliant.
I'm now coming on 83 and still leaping.
Oh, brilliant story. Well, there's always great. Nice bit of history there. Anyway, we need to get into, because we had quite a run, and I don't know what happened to you in Australia with all those hits. It looks like you were the second coming almost. But we get to 1968, and obvious we were going to talk about this at some point. Little Arrows. Were you still with? Yeah, it's an amazing song, and I'm glad there's some clips of you singing it on YouTube and that. But how did that come about? How did you choose that song?
Well, like all singers, you need writers,
Yeah.
And no bad writers and singers. Nowadays, there's more writers that they write their own stuff, a lot of them. But in those days, you didn't. You were a singer, and then you went to a writer for a song, But then the writers had to sell their songs to the publishers.
Yes.
And so to find songs, I would go round to all the publishers, on a regular basis, just looking for songs. you know. And they play you everything they got, and you say what I like, that I don't. And one day I walked into Chapels, I think it was.
Oh,
And,
yeah, chapel music, yeah.
And a young lad standing there, you know, it's in the book actually, a young lad standing there, and a nice enough guy, and, you know, he was there to sell some songs, and it was lunchtime, so he was waiting for everybody to come back from lunch. I said, well, let's hear him. I said, because I've got a friend of mine, Gordon Mills. I knew Gordon Mills. He just got Tom Jones at the time. He just got him. But he was a friend of mine, you know. He was in that little group that called me Leapy Lee, actually. He was called the Mule. That was his nickname because he was so damn stuck. Anyway, so Albert said, it was Albert Hammond. Albert Hammond. So he said, because he had only had one little nibble with his free electric band or something. And I said, well, let's hear him, you know. I said, because I know Gordon Mills. You know, just got Tom Jones, the singer, you know, so I might be able to get your songs to him, which would cut out the middleman, you know.
Sure, yes.
Publish, but it wouldn't cut them out altogether, but initially it would. Anyway, so he played it 2 or 3 to me, and that came up, and I said, I like that. I said, can I take that? He said, well, I've only got one copy of it. And I said, I will get that to Gordon Mills. And he said, oh, well, all right. And he very reluctantly parted with this one demo, you know. I took it. I took it, and Gordon was in America trying to fix up some deal with Tom or whatever. And anyway, I couldn't get in touch with Gordon, and so I had to give it back to Albert. And I said, but I will. Don't worry. But I had learnt it. And about a fortnight later, when Gordon came round to play some poker at Dawes' house, I wasn't playing. It was too rich for my blood. But I called him at the door. He was going out, and I said, I want you to hear this song over the guitar. I don't want to hear that song. He said, I just lost £400. He said, I'm not coming. That was a lot of money in those days. I just lost 400. I said, listen. And I blocked him at the door, and I started to play it. I played it. And he listened. This is 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. Oh. And he listened, and he said, I like that. He said, we'll do that next week. Brilliant. And of course, and next week we went in and we did it. And that was it, really, because I sat there with all of Tom's musicians, who were the best musicians, you know, all of them, because they were, I mean, just gone straight up a one-way street in front of me. I'm out in the road. Oh. I'm in the sunshine. It's beautiful here. Oh, I'm sure. In the sun, it's absolutely gorgeous in the sun.
It looks nice here, but I'll tell you what, it's a lot warmer where you are. I know that.
Am I allowed to ask where he is?
When the sun goes, it's chilly, I'll tell you that. But when the sun's there, it's absolutely glorious. I'm standing there getting a tan. Brilliant. I'm talking to you.
Fantastic. I'm most jealous.
We did it with Gordon, and the rest was sort of history, as it were, as they say.
Sure.
You know,
did you feel it? I mean, did you have some inkling or feel it in your water or whatever that was the hit? That was it. Did you know straight away? Did you have a sense it would be?
The record?
Yeah, the Arrows. Did you feel it was going to be?
A hit. That's why I picked it. I thought it was a hit.
Perfect.
There was no, in my mind there was a hit. Well, of course it was a question. You're not absolutely 100%, but I've got a good ear for hits and things. I had it at that time. And, I thought that's a hit.
Well, you made it...
Even playing as well. And they let me.
Sure.
And later on, I wanted to do Sweet Caroline when I had it at least a year out in the UK, and he wouldn't let me do it. Oh. Gordon made a few bad decisions as well as good, you know. He wasn't... Nobody's infallible, I suppose, you know. But,
no.
And, I knew that I'm absolutely certain that was a goer, you know. Gordon made a wonderful job of it. And Big Jim Sullivan, Tom's guitarist on the intro, you know, has befuddled many a guitarist. When I used to walk into the BBC for a live session, the lead guitarist's face used to drop. But you have to imitate it, because if you actually listen to it, it's quite intricate, that intro. And Jim had just brought over the first, wah-wah pedal from America. You know, wow, that was the first time it was ever used on the record. Sure. And it used that, and it had everything going for it, you know. And of course, Albert, since then, has become one of the, if not the biggest songwriter in the world, you know. And he's a multi. Sure. Well, written some wonderful.
Little Arrows, I mean, it did rather well round the world. UK #2, Australia 2, Canada 8, US
We were
Bill.
number one actually in 18 countries. We were number one in 18
Brilliant.
countries on the Billboard. Yeah, the great big page they used to do.
I was,
Counted up.
I was going to say the actual Billboard Hot 100. You did rather well there, and even better in the US country chart. So that's
Yeah,
pretty
crossed over.
good. Yeah.
Weird. Crossed over. Which is a weird thing because I love country, but I never looked on it as a country song at all.
Nor have I. I was surprised to see it there, but no, brilliant. Well, we're not going to. We're not arguing about it, are we?
A lot of the die-hard country people don't like me because they think that I try to make country pop. I didn't like that.
Well, you didn't put yourself in the chart. They have to talk to whoever did. Anyway, no, I'm glad you made it there. Now, Little Arrows, you did an album of that, which did quite well as well. And but
800,000.
wow, that's amazing. Before we move on from Little Arrows, I haven't asked this question to anyone for ages and ages. What was it like? Was it surreal? And what was it like going on Top of the Pops and all these things when you'd actually made it? Yeah?
It was wonderful. It was wonderful. And I was steaming down the Bayswater Road with status quo in my open-top Cadillac, all going, yeah, we made it, we made it. It was wonderful, believe me.
Brilliant. That's brilliant.
Anybody said it's terrific. It's a wonderful feeling. It's you've made it. You've got loads of dough coming in. Yeah, what's there to not like?
Yeah. I just wondered if it was... I wonder if it's a bit surreal or something, but no, that's brilliant.
Well,
Absolutely.
it was a bit surreal as well. Of course it was, because I went from nothing, literally nothing. I had to borrow half a crown to go to the music, to the record company.
Sure.
And I walked into the record company and they said, "Where have you been, Leapy?" And I said, "Well, you know, I've been anywhere really. You know, I didn't have a phone, you see, at home.
Sure.
Because we were absolutely on the floor." And I looked in the I looked in the paper in the Daily Mirror or something that morning, and I looked and I saw Little Arrows number 13 in the charts.
Brilliant.
And that's when I went down there, and they said, "We've been looking for you. It's selling like hotcakes, you know." They've gone mad, you know. The boss of MCA danced on his desk. Oh, blimey, here we go. So he said, "How much do you want?" I said, "Well, about 500 quid would be all right." "Oh, no problem at all." He wrote me a cheque for 500, and so I went down to the agency, and they said, "How much do you want?" I said, "We'll give us 300. So they had £800, which in 1968 was a lot of money.
Yes,
I mean, you
yeah.
could buy a house for £2,500.
Yes, yeah,
You know,
yeah.
It was a lot of dough. So, no, it was wonderful.
Yeah, that's
Wonderful.
brilliant.
I
Now,
loved it.
now, of course, the once you'd had that massive hit. Sue's got a question. Yes, before
Yeah,
we
I've
move
got a question regarding Little Arrows. When you were singing the song, you've got like these high-pitch singing part. Did you have to train your... Yes, darling. Perfect. Did you have to train your voice to do that?
To get what, darling? To get what?
You're
Breaking up a...
Oh, sorry. Little Arrows, when you were singing it, your voice is perfect, but then you get to these high notes. Did you have to do anything to your vocal cords to get that high?
Train or something.
Strangle them slightly.
Brilliant. And of
No,
course,
I could yodel, you see. I was an old country boy, you know. I could do a bit of yodel. So love again wasn't that difficult for me. It is now.
Oh, okay. Brilliant.
we won't ask you, I promise. Of course, after Little Arrows, there was obviously the task was to find a follow-up song, and I see Here Comes the Rain was the next one.
That was dreadful. I mean, what happened there, very briefly, I had another song from Albert called Katie's Kisses, which was another smash. And normally you give the writer the follow-up. It only makes sense, you know.
Sure.
You know, coming in the same idiom, same ilk, you know, of the same ilk. But Gordon wanted a Biciclette de Belle size for Engelbert, because he had Engelbert as well as Tom.
Okay, yes. Wow.
And he wanted Biciclette de Belle size from Barry Mason and Les Reed, who wrote it.
Yes.
And he wanted it for Engelbert, and they said to Gordon, "We'll give you Biciclette de Belle size for Engelbert as long as we get the follow-up for Leapy Lee."
Yes.
So that, and there was murder. I mean, Albert didn't speak to me for years. He thought it was me. I
Oh
did it,
dear. Oh dear.
and
Okay.
it was all, you know. And unfortunately, if you've got Tom Jones and Engelbert Humperdinck in your stable, in your Leapy Lee, you are the third member of the club. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
they were important. I mean, Tom was the most important to Gordon, and Engelbert was a quite a far away second. Really, I've
Sure.
been wait on the phone for hours while he talked. Well, not hours, a long time. While he talked to Tom on the other phone.
Sure.
And I was like, you know, I needed a different manager, really. I needed a manager that just had me, you know.
I understand.
So anyway, I got the second one, which Here Comes the Rain, which I did in Cannes at the music festival, which absolutely stormed because it was a great big orchestra and it was a great big theatre and it was beautiful. Mike Leander conducting a 40-piece orchestra, and everybody said they would release it because all the agents from all over the world are there, you see.
Sure. Yeah.
And they all said that they would put it out. Because when it came out on the disc, it was reedy. It wasn't nice. It was a big song, you know, a big waltz.
Okay.
Did quite well in Germany because of Papa, Papa.
Yes.
Papa.
Yeah.
But died on its behind. I think what was the name that disc jockey? And what she said. Anyway, she said it would make a good ashtray. And she was about right, actually. You could make ashtrays out of them. Then couldn't you melt them down?
Yeah, you could. And is it Annie Nightingale you're thinking of?
And Nightingale, yeah.
First
She was
female DJ
petrified me
legend.
after that, always, because whenever I got on her show, I went near her.
Okay.
She thought I was going to say something over the air about her.
Oh dear. Anyway, I see. Sorry, Carl. The album Leapy Lee, you got some quite good Australian hits came out of that. We followed with Little Yellow Aeroplane.
That was South Africa, actually.
Okay, and a wonderful song, and how it only got to number 29 in the UK, I will never know. Good Morning. What a great song.
I know, yeah.
What a great song.
Yeah, I still do that in the act.
Sure you do.
I do in the act, yeah, and it goes down quite well. So
Brilliant.
people remember. It did quite well in Germany, and another one did quite well in Germany. Good Morgan, you see.
Ah, yes, of course.
Never went any higher. Just too much competition, perhaps. God knows.
Okay.
Who knows?
Well, yes, I say it's hindsight again, isn't it? But,
Yeah.
1974, no, I didn't know about this one. A minor UK hit, actually. Every Road Leads You Back, and it came from an album of the same name.
Every Road Leads Back to You. Well, that was from an album I did in 72 or 73. That was going to be my big comeback.
Sure.
And that was written and produced, the whole thing, by Keith Pocker of the Seekers.
Oh, yes. Absolutely. Love the Seekers, yeah.
Well, Keith is a very good producer as well. You know, he's Australian, of course. And
Yes.
And we did that, and the company, which was Bell Records, thought it was going to be a smash. They thought it was going to be an absolute smash. They thought another number one. Everybody was around. They had a big convention, and they played it all the time during this convention of all their people from all over the world. You know, and we really thought this. You know, I thought I'm going to pay the mortgage and everything. And but the problem, Leapy's Law. You know, you say about Leapy's Law.
Go on. No, I didn't. No.
Yeah, leave it, Lord, yeah. No, so, yeah, every road leads back to you. So, in those days, I know you've got a minute, in those days, they used to put, the charts were made up from particular shops all over the country.
Oh, yes,
They would go to each shop, that selected shop, which was a secret list, you know, all that business. And how many sales they got, you know, they would put them all together, get an average, and then they would create the charts from that. That's how it was done.
Yeah.
Without all the internet and everything, of course.
Yes.
And so the shopkeepers would order in the ones that were doing well. Well, mine was doing very well, and we went to 54, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And the Bay City Rollers were also with Bell.
Yes.
The two girls in the office of the Bell Records instructed the factory, were fans as well, of course, the youngsters, they're now coming along, of course, you know, were fans, and they instructed the factory, the Decca factory, the pressing factory actually, to only press Bay City Roller records because they were getting a run on them.
Okay.
So when the shopkeepers we went to 54. When the shopkeepers went to order my records, because it was going up like a rocket, you know, they'd run out of stock.
Okay.
So when they took the figures that weekend, up to the Thursday, after Thursday, they didn't have any records at all because they didn't have anything to sell. And, you know, when kids go in to buy records, they don't say, we'll come back next week. They buy something, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And so the next week, it only went up to 51. But in actual fact, if we'd have had Thursday, Friday, Saturday sales, we'd have gone into the top 30 easy.
Sure.
But it only went into 51, so it didn't even crack the 50. Well, the shopkeepers then look at it and say, oh, my God, that's only gone up to 51. It's only gone up 2 or 3 places.
Yeah.
Don't order any more of those. So they didn't bother to order it.
No,
See what I mean?
Yeah, the record. I hear various stories from people from that era, and all I can say is just that the record industry certainly did stink, didn't it, at the time? That's a very polite way of wording it.
If they couldn't order the record because of the company wasn't pressing them, then you couldn't go up.
Absolutely.
You couldn't sell. No, simple as that, really. Anyway.
Absolutely.
I was disappointed with that. Very disappointed because I thought it was one of the better ones that happened.
Sure. Absolutely. Now, Carol. Okay, now I understand somewhere around 40 years ago you decided to leave the UK and go out to the Med, and I don't blame you to have warm sun. It just looks nice here, but I'd rather have your temperature and a bit of a tan, to be honest with you. I think Sue was going to ask you a question about moving out to the Med.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you where you were. Sorry.
Oh, I'm on Mallorca.
Oh, wow.
I couldn't remember which one it was.
Yeah, lovely.
Yeah.
We've gone the lockdown, same as everybody, but you know, it's opening up a little bit now.
That's cool.
And it's beautiful island.
Absolutely. Lee, question is, now you did basically answer one of my questions earlier on, and that was, do you still play and sing in that? And you've already mentioned that you do still.
Oh yes, I'm just waiting to start the new season now.
Wow.
You know, we're just hoping that things go back to some sort of normality, you know.
Well, yeah, quite.
Whether they would or not, because the Spanish authorities are still a bit firm with everything, you know. But anyway, we're just waiting what happens over the next couple of months, because the season doesn't start until April anyway,
Sure.
the end of April.
No, the fingers crossed.
We would be working.
Now, when you do play around Mallorca, is your audience mainly expats or Brits on holiday or locals? I mean,
mainly Brits on holiday.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Yeah.
Some for expats, but mainly people on holiday.
Brilliant. No, that's nice, really nice. And I'm glad to hear that you're still active there, and I'm sure the sunshine helps.
What?
I'm sure the sunshine helps you feel good, because I know it would me. Lee, is there do you have any presence on social media? Is there any website, or is there a Facebook page or anywhere where people can find you, maybe?
Well, I'm on Facebook, and I'm also on Expat Radio Scotland. I mean, I don't plug another station, but you know, Expat Radio Scotland, I'm on Mondays and Fridays.
Wow,
cool.
That's brilliant.
And I've also, they've got a website, Expat Radio Scotland. We've got a website.
Sure, brilliant.
We're all over. I've got listeners everywhere, and down in Texas, Alabama.
Wonderful. That's brilliant.
And there is a Leapy Lee website, which is not very well kept up, to tell you the truth.
Okay.
But it's there somewhere. I haven't looked at it for ages.
Nice.
But that's about it. But I'm definitely on Facebook.
Brilliant.
On Facebook.
Well, I'll let this down a bit, but yeah, obviously that's how I found you. But I didn't want to just say, because that might have been your personal profile, and it wasn't my place to say really about your personal profile. That's brilliant. Lee, if I could, we're just going to wrap it up. If I can speak to you for about 30 seconds off air, be brilliant. Leapy Lee, it's. Oh, hold on. Have you got any questions for Lee?
No,
Cool.
Just a fantastic interview.
Lovely chat, Lee. Leapy Lee.
It wasn't me, Your Honour.
Tell that to the magistrate in the morning, yeah?
Lee, thank you for coming on Chatterbox.
Lee, it's been amazing to chat. Amazing to chat to you at last, and thank you for coming on Chatterbox UK. Thank you, sir.
Take care. Bye bye.
Thank
I
you.
wish you all good health and strength and happiness and in the new year, which is on us now, of course, and come to it safely. Hopefully we all come.
And you, Lee, and you.